Well, everybody, welcome back to our FlingCon conversations. We're glad you decided to come and join us over here on YouTube. Just a reminder, you can catch us on Facebook, you can catch us on Board Game Geeks, you can catch us on Instagram, and eventually you will be able to catch us on X2. We're still working on that, but stay tuned, those Sirius X users, and you will be able to meet us there as well. Tonight, we're going to be talking about what we believe to be the five most underrated games. These are games that you probably don't have in your library, but really should. So we've got our regular crew of very knowledgeable gentlemen here with us. Definitely put me to shame, but hey, that's not hard. So with that, like to just kind of introduce all the way around. We got John with us this evening. Adam's
Hey,
joining us, and our new friend Will. So Will, welcome to the big time. We got you on a live stream finally. So now this is your baptism by fire, as the case may be. So guys, I'm going to read off the list real quick, and then I'm going to pass it off to you. So the
Wes,
five.
I'm sorry. Can I clarify something? I don't think that these are the most underrated games.
Okay.
I just think that they are underrated in general and overlooked.
Okay. All right.
And if you're not playing these games, you should be playing them.
Yes.
Fair enough. So I hear party at John's house then.
Yeah. Hey, you know, come on over.
So the list that we have for you this evening is Lowlands, The River, Court of the Dead. Now, by the way, don't make the same mistake I did. That's not quart like the measuring cup. That's court like a medieval court of kings and queens. Zoo, Loretta, and Crusaders, Thy Will Be Done. Now, the cool thing about the Crusaders, Thy Will Be Done is that if you're also a video gamer, you know that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, uh, Kingdom Come, is finally released. So we got some alignment there. Maybe this is a board game. If you're into that game, maybe this is a board game you should consider picking up to kind of stay in that same vein and along those same tracks. So with that, gentlemen, I'd like to get into our first game this evening. Let's talk about the game called Lowlands.
All right, that's one that I selected. Lowlands is a game I've had in my collection for a little while now. It just sits right outside the top 1,000 on BGG. Lowlands was designed by CNR Partenheimer. Notably, it has development work done by the great Uwe Rosenberg of Agricola and Caverna fame, and you can tell his influence on this game pretty quickly. There are of course wooden sheep to be had, and a number of tiles. And so the way this game works, and the reason that I like it so much, is that it has this great mechanic on the main board here, where you are both you're doing two things simultaneously. You're either working to build a dam to protect the lowlands from flooding, or you're building up your own personal farm, just like you would many other Uwe Rosenberg games. And you have to sort of decide and balance what you're doing on your turn, if you want to focus on building the dam or if you want to focus on building your farm. And these things are always in tension, because if you focus on building the dam, you're going to protect your farm and everybody else's farm. But that means that the supply and demand for those sheep is going to start shifting away, and there's going to be an overwhelming number of sheep that don't get killed by floods, and therefore the value of those sheep goes down. Whereas if you can manage to keep your sheep alive despite the flooding, those sheep may be worth a lot of money. So it's got a great tension to it, which I think is something that makes it a worthy addition to my collection. On your turn, you're going to be doing a little bit of worker placement. It's got a little uniqueness to it, in that your workers, if you can see that, they have individual values on them. So this is your 4 value worker. You've got your 3 worker and your 2 worker as well. And that's going to affect the strength of the action that you choose to take. The actions are pretty simple. You're either going to be building these tiles to add to your farm space. You're going to be working to build the dam, as I already mentioned. You're going to be building fences to pasture your sheep. You're going to either be buying or selling sheep, or you're going to be acquiring resources that you'll need to actually build all those other things. So it comes with these great chunky building blocks for that dam that I mentioned. You start with these big pieces for the bottom level, and then you get into these medium-sized wooden pieces, and then these smaller ones that make it very hard to build. And you also have these great little wooden wave pieces that represent the floods coming into the lowlands. I think what it offers over something like an Agricola or a Caverna, which obviously it seems very similar to on first glance, are that it does have that tension element that I already mentioned, where you have to pay attention to what other people are doing. It's got a little bit more interaction than you get with Agricola or Caverna, in that everything you're doing is affecting the market, whether or not you're trying to encourage the flooding to happen, meaning you're going to specifically avoid building the dam or helping build the dam, or if you want to be the one to save the city and the farms and keep the dam high enough so that the waves don't come over it. It also plays a lot faster than some of those other games. Really, with 4 players, you can easily get this done in an hour and a half. Once everybody has a little familiarity with it, the rounds play super fast. It's got great components, as I already mentioned, and the stamp of Uwe Rosenberg's approval, I think, really lends itself some credence there. So I love this game. I don't know if anybody else has had a chance to play it, but I'm happy to talk more about it if anybody has any questions or anything.
Absolutely. And as normal, if you guys want to contact us, you can do so. You can send us a message on any of our socials. You can email us through our website. Just let us know which staff member you're posing your question to, and we would be absolutely happy to get an answer back to you. Adam, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being I'm a new board gamer, I've never played a board game other than Monopoly in my life, and 5 being I am the uber board gamer, I've played everything in the BGG library and I can pick up any game and run it. Where does somebody need to be in order to pick up this game and go?
I don't think this game is super hard to learn. It definitely relies, I think, on some prior knowledge from other games. So I certainly wouldn't put it on a 1. Probably not even a 2. I think it falls solidly between a 2 and a 3, maybe a little closer to 3 than anything else. It's certainly not difficult once you understand conceptually what works. But there is a little bit of a process. You need to get resources so you can actually accomplish the other tasks. You need to understand that, oh man, I may have the greatest sheep farm here and everybody else is really failing to build the sheep, but then that flood comes and you're not prepared to deal with it and you lose all your sheep. That could be disheartening if you aren't preparing yourself. So I'd put it right around a 3.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate that. The next up we have is a game called The River. I believe John's got that one.
So the River is basically, it's a worker placement game, and the reason I put it on our underrated list is because it's very friendly as far as like for gateway gamers to come in and experience worker placement, because it's not really overly complicated. Essentially what you're doing is what's kind of unique about it is you're kind of building out the worker placement spaces as you go, and you're building out building. There are certain ones that come attached onto the board, but you're kind of building them out as you go. And I just think it's real friendly for gateway gaming. I think it's a really good solid representation of worker placement that does not overcomplicate. Some designers tend to overcomplicate worker placement, and this is just very very basic, very simple. It'll get you into that, and then hey, maybe later on, once you become that 5 in the worker placement category, being better at complicated games, you can move on to something else. But and I think that's another reason why the River isn't played as much, is because of its simplicity. But I don't think simplicity is necessarily a bad thing. You can have games that are simple that are just solid games, and can still be just as enjoyable as any complicated game, I feel.
So you said it's a worker placement.
Yes.
Is it economy based? Is it something where you're just trying to grow things in order to
So
stockpile resources?
you're gonna have like buildings that you can produce contracts. Essentially, it's contract fulfillment. So you provide a certain number of resources, maybe like wood or in this particular game, it's wood, clay, stone, and food. And so you would provide a certain number of resources and you would build a building. And you can either build like a production building, or there's a few different choices that you have to choose from.
So it sounds like this might be a step further than, say, something like a Settlers of Catan.
Yes, it's definitely, well, it's different from Settlers of Catan, because you're building out your board, and you're building out the main board that you can gain resources from. So it's very different from Settlers of Catan.
Hey, John.
Yes, sir.
One of the games that I always kind of gravitated towards for gateway and worker placement was Lords of Waterdeep. How would you compare it?
I would say it's easier than Lords of Waterdeep, because there's very little interaction with other players. In Lords of Waterdeep, you can really mess other players up, not only by going to other spaces, but anyways, I'm digressing here. We're not talking about Lords of Waterdeep. But the river, there's very minimal interaction with other players.
Okay. All right. Well, moving ahead, the next game we have on our list is Court of the Dead. Will, I think that's you.
It is. So yeah, the game was, I guess, put out in 2019. It plays about 90 minutes, 2 to 5 players, best at 4. The weight is actually 3 out of 5, but the community says that 10-year-olds can play it. It's not that difficult. You can actually get right into it if you're a newbie. I teach this game to newbies all the time. It's kind of like a card drafting. You got four cards, you draft, you pick one, you pass the rest one, you get one, you pass the rest of one. But you're kind of getting, the premise is that you're actually in the capital of the underworld, and you're just trying to get these different guilds to kind of work for you in different locations, the capital city. Actually, I got it set up on my table. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but we'll see. So it's Court of the Dead, and this is kind of the capital city there. And
wow, that art is amazing.
Yeah, you can't really tell, but there are these little rivers here. There's actually like little rivers of lights. And then you have 3 different factions. You have bone, spirit, and flesh. And you pick a faction, but you don't necessarily have to actually, you're not just that one faction. So you actually control different guilds. So each faction has, each like bone has, there's 2 different factions of the guild. So you have spirit, so there's 2 different ones, and then you have flesh. And the thing is, when you're competing and you're putting these guys out on the map, there's also consequences. So the more guys you put out on the board, the threat meter goes up. And whenever that happens, like, it affects everybody. So and you have like 3 to 4 rounds. I'm going to just take this out now. There's 3 to 4 rounds. It just depends on whenever the Unity coins are gone. But it says it plays 90 minutes, and it's pretty good on that. It's
That's a rarity.
Yeah. It's ranked 2,340 right now. It's designed by Patrick Morano, but US Monopoly, they actually the ones that actually put it out. So possibly another reprint. You can still get this game on Board Game Geek, eBay. They still sell it. Yeah, I don't know. There's different. I mean, there's only like 4 actions you do. It's really easy. You can get the cards that go along with the figurines. That's a little bit more pricey, but the cards benefit you more. So it's just a cool overall game. I every time I bring this to the table, or I'm at a store and I have my players want to sign out, they're like, "What is this?" So I was like, "Well, come on, let's play." But yeah, I just thought this needs to be put out there and have more people play it. So
now, Will, I just want to ask. I saw the game as you were showing it.
Yeah,
it is one of those games that has, a very detailed artwork and a number of different pieces. And there are a lot of newbies who get intimidated by, now that's by far not anywhere close to the most intimidating game I've ever seen, but there are some people who may watch this and they've never really board gamed before. But you're saying if I go to the printed meeple, hit up the
Yeah.
printed meeple, and I pick up a copy of this game, in their used collection or through something, I should be able to get somebody to teach me this game, or should be able to wade through these instructions pretty.
Yeah, it's easier than Catan. It's it's easier to pick up. It's there's once you have a little cheat sheet too, but there's only four actions you can do: either play a card, place a figurine, or just collect the little income. So it's really it's kind of like a little bit of like a little area control based on the threat meter. It tells you how many figurines can be in that area when it comes time to tally up. So it tells you on the board, just roll a die. If you have that number, they either go or they stay. So yeah, I think it's basic. Again, on Board Game Geek, it says it's ages 14 and up, but the community says that 10-year-olds play it. So I think it's even though it's ranked for like a 3 weight, I would say that's a medium high weight, but I don't see that at all. But
how do you win? Are you scoring points from these area controlled, or?
Yeah, the only thing your scoring points are is going to be on your faction board. Actually, I can show you real quick here. Oops. So you have your board here, and then these the different types of factions. What I told you was like bone, flesh, spirit. So on the top of these tracks, you actually see the victory points here. So depending on, and you'll get these throughout the game, like certain things, cards will tell you to move this up. Certain areas will tell you to gain influence, different types of influence. So the goal is you want to get your influence, these little markers, all the way up here. So at the end of the game, each of these little lines will score victory points. And then you also have secret goals, kind of like a Nemesis, that you're trying to do also to collect certain sets. So everybody's going to do, it just helps you guide. Again, I think that's why it's kind of easy as well. It starts you off with a goal. Or like you're like, a lot of people start a game and they're like, I have no idea where to go. There's so many options. This game, you get dealt 3 cards, you pick one, and that is the goal that you're trying for. So I think a lot of people pick it up pretty quick is because they have a mission and they can actually see it,
I like that.
I like that. That's a cool mechanic. All right. Well, moving on to our next game, one that I am completely unfamiliar with. It is Zoo Loretta. So, guys, what is this game?
Go ahead, Adam.
You probably know it better than I do, John. But
Okay. I'll go ahead and talk about it then. I just didn't want to run you over. So
go ahead.
Zularetto is basically a drafting game, and what you're doing in Zularetto is you're trying to draft animals into your zoo. And so you have a particular amount of spaces that you can draft animals into. And the thing of it is that you can only have like animals in the same cages. So like I couldn't mix a monkey and a giraffe or whatever. So that's where drafting comes into place, because you're going to draft a whole crate of animals, which could consist of 3 to 4 animals that are on the crate. So you obviously want to draft ones that have the same animal types on them. But that's not always the case. And that's where the crux of this game comes in, is because then you have to put them into a like a barn area, and in that barn area they don't score for you. And I think if I remember correctly, if you get a certain number of animals in there, you do lose points. It's a real simple mechanic. All you do is draft every single round. It's not a difficult game. There's tension in the game because I don't want Adam to take that one crate from me, because those are the only animals I can put in my zoo. And then, Adam, of course, can't even put those animals in there, but he's going to take that crate from me, because then it's going to create a problem for me. And You know, there's a lot of good tension, and the tension is just generated by a very easy game system.
Yeah, this is a fun. I mean, there's other games kind of in the series that that have different themes and a couple of different rules, but easy to pick up. It seems deceptively simple. There's definitely some strategy in there that you can latch onto and take it to kind of the next level. Really, really good pick here.
Beware of a game that says it is simple.
Oh yeah, the game. I mean, what you do in the game is very simple, but it makes for some hard choices.
Yep, fair enough. All right. Well, we're coming up on time a little faster than I thought we would. So we'll get to our last game, and that is a game called Crusaders, Thy Will Be Done. So, guys, what's the deal here?
I'll take this one if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Crusaders is a game that came out from TMG a few years back. I think been republished, but it's
it was republished by Pandasaurus.
There you go.
Or no, Renegade. I'm sorry, Renegade, not Pandasaurus.
Yeah. I had this fancy Kickstarter version of the game when it first came out. I've unfortunately gotten rid of it. I wish I still had it in my collection. It's got a lovely rondel mechanic to it, where essentially you start off with this pie that each one of these pie pieces represents a different action that you can take, or a couple of actions you can take sometimes. And on your turn, you're going to be shifting the little wooden pieces inside each one of these pie segments around, and you do this little kind of Mancala rondel thing where you pick up all the pieces in one of the wedges and you start dropping them until you've dropped one piece in every wedge going around the circle. And wherever you drop the last piece, however many pieces are in that pie wedge is going to be the strength of the action that you end up taking. So you got to think about, okay, how strong do I want this action to be? Where do I need to take pie pieces from so that I can make sure I take the action that I want by counting up how many I need to get to that spot, as well as thinking about the future too. Like next round, I want to make sure I have lots of little wooden pieces in this particular pie section because I really need to activate that action. Throughout the game, what you're trying to do is basically take over territory throughout Europe, Eastern Europe, and the western part of Asia, sort of mimicking some of the Crusades. You start off as one of the different Crusader factions. Everybody has some slightly different asymmetrical powers that give them advantages in one area or another. And you mostly are just trying to score points. You're building up different building types out there that give you advantages. The more of these that you put out and score you points as well. You build up your strength of your armies and sort of spread your influence across the continent there as you're attempting to get farther and farther east and reclaim territory for the Crusades. So it's a beautiful production, really nice pieces. The version I had both very nice wooden pieces and matching plastic pieces because the Kickstarter crowd clamored for their wooden pieces, even though the game manufacturers said that they thought the plastic was an upgrade, so they ended up including both of them. But very fun game, very intimidating maybe to look at, but very easy to play once you understand the concepts of how that rondel works and what each of your actions does. It also has a neat mechanic where you can upgrade those pie pieces, and make those actions even stronger. So throughout the course of the game, you're really getting more and more powerful, spreading faster and faster, and trying to get to those open spaces before somebody else can get there. So.
Well, I'm telling you, my brain is still spinning on this whole Mancala based, system. I'm thinking to myself, man, I was never very good at that game. I don't know how well I do at this, but I love the topic. Maybe this is one I'm going to have to check out and see. I'll tell you guys, I once thought I was pretty good and knowledgeable about board games until I went to FlingCon and realized that, wow, I know nothing. And Adam's cat is joining us. Adam, what is the name of the cat?
That is Rin. So she's always part of the show.
Oh, hey, the cat is always welcome. We like animals here. So guys, in the end, I think the hard thing for a lot of people is, where do we find these? Because as a guy who counts on places like the Printed Meeple and FlingCon, I don't hear about these games. I'm not a big like BGG troller like some people are. I go down and I ask Toby at the Printed Meeple, hey Toby, what's cool? Or I go to FlingCon and I'll see a game and it's getting played by like 5 different groups, and I'll be like, oh my goodness, what is this game? I
I
gotta
think
learn it.
honestly, your best bet would be to go, to your local game store, a place like the Printed Meeple, and talk to the people there, because they should be knowledgeable on how to obtain these games. They can at least tell you if they're out of print or, still in print. So.
And of course, you can always connect with us on all the socials. X is coming. X is coming. I don't think we're there yet, but it is coming. So stay with us on X. But if you're looking for our website, it's flingcon.com. We're on Facebook at FlingCon Board Game Event. That's all one word if you know how the Facebook naming element works. And then on Instagram, we're at fling.con, not com, fling.con with an N.
CON.
You can see all the cool stuff that our social media team is putting out there. We got game highlights. We've got information about the upcoming cons and events and different things. So we'd love for you to connect with us. As always, drop us some comments on the video. We'd love to hear from you and see if we can get a chance to respond. And do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button so that people know that you enjoyed the video and they can share it out to others. Anyway, we will look forward to seeing you guys next week. Y'all have a wonderful day and game on.